Call Louise Upston.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, I'm going to speak today in the debate on the Prime Minister's statement and focused on the things that do matter to New Zealand. And I'm not going to resort to the sorts of comments and offensive remarks that the Speaker who just resumed his seat. And I'm really surprised at the Labour woman sitting in the House who didn't violently object to the phrase that Mr Goff just used about the Prime Minister. I'm not repeating it, Mr Goff, because it doesn't honour this House. No, Mr Speaker, I refuse to use that word, and I'm just shocked that none of the Labour women did anything about it in you using such offensive language in this House. Anyway, Mr Speaker, this side of the House, this government under John Key's leadership is creating a New Zealand that is better today, better tomorrow, a stronger place for today's families and tomorrow's families. If you think about the things that the Prime Minister covered in his address in the opening of Parliament, it's the issues that matter to Kiwis up and down this country: a stronger economy, more jobs, better frontline health and education services, a safer New Zealand, and of course rebuilding Christchurch and Canterbury. But actually all of this stuff comes from having a stronger economy. But instead we have Labour members who speak about the need or the desire of interfering with a private company's business and think that that's going to solve the problems of the New Zealand economy. Well, we've spent 5 years, this is our 6th year, focusing on what does make a difference in the economy, and we are reaping those rewards. We don't reap those rewards for our benefit, they are for the benefit of every single New Zealander. But instead, the opposition, the first week in the House, they're already talking about spending $750 million that's not even sitting there. And so we have an opposition that just wants to go back to the old ways of the past, thinking that just because we are getting the books balanced this year, then you go off on a lolly scramble. You go out and spend when we still have a fragile economy. Yes, it's growing. Yes, things are looking up. But actually, we shouldn't go out and spend all of the benefits of what's been a very tough period of time, Mr Speaker. And it's one thing I am really encouraged by, though, is if I, visiting the different towns, the smaller towns in the Taupo electorate, whether it's Cambridge, Tiro, Turangi, it's really, really encouraging to see the number of new businesses that are opening, whether it's in retail, whether it's in manufacturing, whether it's in tourism. There are new businesses opening every week, which is really fantastic. And that comes, Mr Speaker, from the confidence of an economy that is growing. Because no one in their right mind would go out there and start a business, start employing staff, taking on those sorts of commitments if they didn't think that the environment, the economic environment, was one that could sustain that opportunity. So I want to say congratulations to those small businesses in the Taupo community who are out there doing it and taking risks to employ people in this environment that is growing. Business confidence is clearly up. And so what we are seeing, Mr Speaker, is that, the signs are there, it's looking positive, but we shouldn't be, basically putting that at risk. We've still got to be cautious, we've still got to be careful, and not basically just go out and spend everything that we have, the strength of position we've got to. I mean, if you look at business confidence, the highest it's been since 1999. That's a phenomenal result. And if we look at, we often have conversations in this House about wages. Well, the average weekly wage has gone up 2.8% in the last year. And that's compared to an inflation rate of 1.6. So, yep, the gap is small, but that means that in terms of wages, we're heading in the right direction. One example, Mr Speaker, that I wanted to speak about today, and one that you will be very familiar with, is the Cambridge section of the Waikato Expressway. Because one of the platforms of the government's business growth agenda is around infrastructure. And its role in helping to fuel this economic growth and opportunity. So we're talking about a 16-kilometre section of the Waikato Expressway that I visited on just yesterday. And it's really fantastic to see the number of people that are employed as a result of that project. But more importantly, Mr Speaker, the real benefit that I'm immensely proud of is, as a result of that project, 300 jobs, 20 of them have come from people who were on benefit in the local work and income office who now have jobs. So that's 20 people that before this project didn't have jobs that now do. Not only do they now have a job and a pay packet to take home each week, they are getting skills, they are getting certifications, and they are passing the rigours of the work environment that is in place on that project, which is fantastic. So it was fantastic to see this is another section of the Waikato Expressway that, when finished, will carve something like 20 or 25 minutes off a trip from Tiro to Auckland, which is great. And I know the Greens will always talk about how the fact that, we don't want more roads, we don't want roads of national significance, but, Mr Speaker, people in my electorate still drive cars on roads, trucks are used to get their export goods to market, to the ports, and although it's great to see the increase in cycling, good luck if you wanted to try and cycle from one end of my electorate to the other any day soon. So in terms of other opportunities or other things that this government is focused on, one of the other aspects of the business growth agenda is, of course, around skills, education and skills. And this is an area that the other side of the House absolutely get wound up about, because we are getting results in areas that they didn't when they had the chance. So I was proud to accompany the Prime Minister at Ratana and at Waitangi. And I'm enormously proud when he stands up and speaks to audiences and gives the results that this government is achieving in Māori education. Because it's often used, and we hear that Māori are disadvantaged, that they turn up in all the statistics we don't want them in. But actually, Mr Speaker, education is one of the main areas that we get to improve those statistics. So getting higher levels of participation in early childhood education, lifting NCEA achievement, increased number in trade trainings opportunities, apprenticeships, they are the things that count. They are the things that count in terms of getting results, getting achievement, and getting opportunities for the rest of their lives. And one of the highlights for the start of this year, Mr Speaker, was the Prime Minister's announcement about the opportunities for high-quality teaching and principals. Because it is an issue, particularly in some of the rural areas. We do sometimes have difficulty attracting teachers and principals into the small rural areas. And it's been an issue that some of the schools and the boards of trustees have raised with me over and over again. Well, this way, we get to have the teaching excellence shared amongst a group of schools in a small community, and they get to share that with one another. And I think that is absolutely superb, and again is one of the very practical, sensible things this government is doing to lift educational achievement. And the group that will really benefit in the Taupo electorate more than any is also those Māori students that we are unwilling to have them left behind. So, Mr Speaker, I'm very proud that the Prime Minister's statement to the House this year talked about the priorities and where we're heading as a government as we lead into election year in a very, very strong position with a growing economy, raising achievement in education, having quicker attention in terms of health requirements, and having safer streets and communities.
Speaker.
You must call, so, Meka Whaitia.